Joining us now is former White House Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor at Bondi Partners, Mick Mulvaney. Mick, welcome. I mean, watching Biden tonight was just extraordinary. The moment he walked out, as I said in my editorial at the top of the show, you could just tell he wasn't all there. And there were moments, a bit like this, where you just looked at him, you thought, mate, you are on another planet.
Wants to get away with, get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
And look, I know this is somewhat situation normal for Biden, but he was away prepping for this debate for a week, and that's what we got.
It's hard to imagine this going any worse for the Biden team than it went tonight. There were examples again and again of Biden not being able to answer questions, not being able to get through a coherent thought. And the debate in this country has already started to turn to how do the Democrats replace Biden? Can they replace Biden? If they replace Biden, with whom do they replace Biden? And I'm talking about that being on the left-leaning television networks. It's just stunning how badly this went tonight for the current president.
And when you looked at him at other times when Trump was speaking and they had the sort of side by side and you could see the reaction of Joe Biden, again, you looked at some of that and went, are you on the same, you in the same room as the rest of us? Take a look at this.
Because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. Mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists.
I mean, he just looks dazed and confused. Yeah. And you mentioned on this show a few weeks ago a drug called modafinil, which you were prescribed by a White House doctor after long international trips. I wondered whether they would give Joe Biden anything today. And of course, Trump previously suggested that they'd give him a jab in the arse before he went on stage. But if they did, it didn't do much.
If they did not give him enough. There's no question about it. Joe Biden tonight, and look, I'm a Republican who supports Donald Trump for president. I felt bad for Joe Biden tonight. I felt bad for the country tonight to look at this and say, this man is currently the president. By the way, the debate shouldn't be, is he capable of running again for president? We need to have a debate right now in this country as to whether or not he is capable of being the president today. I remember when I was the chief of staff, Donald Trump was walking down a wet ramp at a speech, and he stumbled just a little bit. And the New York Times ran a front page story about whether or not Trump was healthy enough to remain in office. Anybody with any sense would be having a discussion tonight about whether the man that we saw on stage has the ability to be the president of the United States right now. Not whether or not he can run for re-election and serve another 4 years. This was about as bad as it could be from that perspective. Again, I support Donald Trump. I oppose the Biden policies. It was hard for me as an American to watch this tonight.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I almost felt sorry for the guy, and I know I probably shouldn't feel sorry for him. He's putting himself up for the job, but you just look at it and go, seriously, why are you still there? And looking at his eyes, even though whatever they gave him wasn't doing too much for him, looking at his eyes, I did wonder whether he was on something, because his eyes were wide open, his pupils were dilated, he was barely blinking. James Morrow, of course, the usual host of this program, who was on with me at the top of the show during the debate, sent a text to my producer and said, if you rocked up to a bar with eyes looking like Biden's, they wouldn't let you in.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine the Democrats looking at tonight with anything other than an eye towards complete and utter failure. I was watching a television program just a few minutes ago and they had Gavin Newsom on, and you have to imagine that the auditioning is already starting for replacing Joe Biden. The discussion on one of the most left-leaning television networks was, how would we replace Joe Biden at the Democrat National Convention in August? So these discussions that, were sort of taking places on the fringes of the internet maybe 3 or 4 months ago are now taking place on live television. I wonder this. What was Jill Biden thinking? What is the family thinking? Why don't they pull him aside and say, you know what, Dad, Joe, husband, father, whatever, it's over. It's better for you not to do this. And I can't help but thinking that that conversation may start taking place here shortly.
I think it has to. He was asked directly about his age tonight, and he sort of, fobbed it off and then started talking about computer chips. Take a look.
How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States, and guess what? Those fabs they call to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000.
I mean, it was just pathetic. If he wanted to prove that he was too old to be president, I think his answer to the question did exactly that. He talked about everything but his age.
Yeah, there was actually another example that I thought was even more telling. They asked him a softball question, a very easy question about abortion. And the answer that he gave moved off of abortion and on to immigration. In this country right now, if the Democrats are going to do well in the 2024 election, they're going to do well in large part because of the abortion issue. That's the one place where the polling has them leading the Republicans across the board. The moderators asked him an abortion question, and he turned it into immigration, one of the weakest topics right now for the Democrats. At one point, Donald Trump, in response to whatever answer that Joe Biden gave, said, I don't understand what he just said, and I don't think he did either. And I got to tell you, that tapped into sort of that's Donald Trump sort of speaking what America is thinking, and one of the reasons he's been so successful. And I got to tell you, if Joe Biden is on the ticket at the end of August, this election is well over. I mean, look, Donald Trump has the ability always to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. There's no question. But if you had the election tomorrow night, it would not be even close.
Yep, I made the call at the top of the show. What we watched in that debate was Biden losing the presidency. I don't think there's any other way to put it. Mick Mulvaney, thanks for your time.